The Red Rag Riddle. Chapter 7. Snowy's It. Catch Sport! J. Michael yelled. He threw a stick across the backyard. The dog chased after the stick as it sailed across the soft grass. He grabbed it and raced back to J. Michael. He plopped the stick on the grass and wagged his tail expectantly. J. Michael didn't even notice. His mind was on Bobby Springer and little Katy. How long had the Springers been living in Highland City? When would they move again? Did the children go hungry? How did they live in that bus? So many unanswered questions. I'll talk with Pastor Gentle. I know he would want to know about them. Maybe he could even stop by for a visit. Unlike J. Michael, Sport wasn't thinking about the Springers. He spied J. Michael's shoelaces and growled at them. When they didn't growl back, Sport grabbed one string with his teeth and yanked. Since the shoestrings didn't seem to be putting up a fight, he pulled even harder to start a game of tug-of-war. Silly dog. J. Michael dropped to his knees and stroked behind the dog's ears. Lord, please show me how we can help Bobby Springer and his family. Amen. Sport licked J. Michael's cheek with his long, pink, wet tongue. J. Michael, a voice called from around the corner of the house. Mr. Fielding, his next-door neighbour, came into sight. Your mother told me you were back here. I don't mean to bother you, but I'd like to talk with you for a minute. We're going on vacation next week, and I was wondering if you'd take care of our pets while we're away. It would help us out, and maybe the money could help you with your school project. Sure, I'd like to do it if you show me how. I'll do that, Mr. Fielding said happily. I wouldn't leave my dogs with just anyone, you know. Well, if you're sure, I can do it. Have you asked my mother if it would be all right? Yes. She said it was fine if you wanted to do it. Come on, I'll show you what needs to be done. The Springer situation would have to wait until some other time. Mr. Fielding led J. Michael through his house and into a bright, tiny blue laundry room. You know, old Sergeant, Mr. Fielding said, pointing out the window to the dog snoozing under the shade of a large spreading oak tree. We have a new puppy too. Mrs. Fielding took him to the vet today for his 6-week shots. But I'll introduce you to Snowy before we leave on vacation. Mr. Fielding unfolded the top of a dog food sack and pulled out a scoop. Snowy gets 1 scoop in the red bowl and Sergeant gets 2 in the blue bowl. He led J. Michael out the back screen door and over to the faucet sticking out at the back of the house. Lazy Sergeant barely opened one eye. Both dogs drink from this water bucket. Be sure you clean it and fill it with fresh water every day, Mr. Fielding said as they walked back into the house. Is that all I do? J. Michael asked. That's it. You need to feed the dogs once a day, and if you have time, play with them a few minutes. Also, whatever you do, if you go through the back gate into the yard, be sure you close it. Watch Snowy. He'll try to get out. No problem. You don't mind if my friend Booker helps me, do you? No, that would be fine. Just take good care of the dogs. J. Michael thanked Mr. Fielding. He was glad to help the Fieldings, and he really did want his school friends to have computers. He also wanted to help the Springers. His mind drifted off again to little Katy's face and the memory of that old rusty bus they called home. No shoes, dirty clothes, no air conditioning, no education. There has to be some way, he thought. He thanked the Lord for his clean, comfortable home and godly family as he crossed the yard and hurried inside. On the first day of his dog-sitting job, both hounds dashed right up to J. Michael when he and Booker opened the back door. While the dogs hungrily gobbled their dinners, J. Michael went over to fill the water bucket. Snowy ran to stick his nose in the water and almost sneezed as he gulped down the fresh, cool water. He ran around and around, getting tangled in J. Michael's legs before tripping back to his puppy food bowl. The silly little puppy didn't know what to do next. He ran from J. Michael to Booker, to his bowl, to the bucket, and back to J. Michael. Sport, running up and down the fence line, barked playfully from the Kind Heart's backyard. He wanted to be part of the action. After the dog's dinner, Booker tried his hand at dog obedience. Sit, Snowy. Instead of sitting, Snowy pounced on Booker and licked his nose. Oh, puppy breath. The sweet smell made Booker want to sneeze. He scratched his nose. Shake, he commanded again, holding out his hand. The dog ran around him in circles, ears flying. He doesn't obey, but he likes me, J. Michael. Booker shouted between giggles. He flopped to the ground and Snowy crawled over him to get his mouth on Booker's frisbee. It looked like something good to chew on. He tried to drag it away from Booker, but Booker pulled back, much to the puppy's surprise. The puppy tugged harder and growled. Booker growled back. The pup stuck his tail straight out and shook his head back and forth to free the captive frisbee. J. Michael, let's play keep away from Snowy, Booker said. Here, you go first. Booker gave a final jerk, and the pup had to release it or lose a tooth. Snowy hunched down. He was ready, his eyes fastened on the frisbee. J. Michael threw the disc and it sailed from one side of the yard to the other. It really floats on the wind today, he said. Snowy waited for just the right moment. Seeing his opportunity, the dog dashed across the yard, his legs stretched out in hot pursuit of the frisbee. Booker, too, raced to the spot and dove to the ground, sliding to the frisbee just in front of the puppy. Good thing he took that basketball stuff seriously. Learning to slide had more than one use. Nice try, Booker patted Snowy on the head. Snowy wasn't so sure. Once again, Booker sent the disc spinning into the wind. J. Michael, I can't believe you're getting paid for this. What a great idea. You can have fun and still make money for our project. Just then, the breeze changed directions and carried the whirring frisbee across the fence into the Fieldings' front yard. I'll get it, Booker shouted as he pushed through the gate and ran into the front yard. Be careful, shouted J. Michael. Don't let Snowy... But the little white puppy was too fast. Like a shooting star, he squeezed through the open gateway and was out of sight. Snowy! Snowy! J. Michael and Booker called as they chased the puppy down the street. The race was on. The two boys were running with all their might. Their legs began to tingle and feel as weak as jelly. The puppy knew he could win at this game. He was born to run. Snowy, come! J. Michael begged as they trailed farther and farther behind. Finally, Snowy stopped running and trotted teasingly back toward them. Then he darted away again. Snowy liked to play by his own rules. He stopped just out of their reach. His busy little tail wagged like a wind-up toy. His merry dark eyes twinkled as he eyed the two boys and cocked his head to one side. He thinks we're playing with him, J. Michael said. I'll stay here and you try to get behind him, he whispered. J. Michael knelt down and whistled. Snowy came closer as Booker slowly, soundlessly sneaked around to the side. Suddenly Booker stepped on a twig and it broke with a loud snap. The puppy dashed away from both boys. Defeated, J. Michael fell on his back in the grass. Booker gave up too. They were no match for this puppy. After all, he had 4 legs and they each had only 2. This isn't working, J. Michael said. We'll never catch him. What are we going to do? I promised Mr. Fielding that I would take care of his dogs. It's not your fault. I'm the one who wasn't careful, Booker said sadly. J. Michael propped his chin on his knees. Booker pulled a piece of grass off his shirt and threw it back on the ground. As the boys thought about what to do next, a man happened to come by with a huge chocolate-brown Labrador retriever. He saw the boys sitting in the grass. Good evening, he greeted, tipping his hat. Has your pup taken you for a run? No, sir. He ran out of the yard when I opened the gate, Booker explained. Now we can't catch him. He just wants to play. Ah, maybe that's just the thing to help you catch him, the man said wisely with a sparkle in his eye. He walked over and leaned towards Booker, whispering a plan in his ear. Booker grinned and whispered to J. Michael. The 2 boys jumped up. Well, goodbye, the man said, and he turned around just in time to avoid hitting a telephone pole. that had seemingly jumped into the sidewalk. Where in the world did I put my glasses? I have to find them. J. Michael overdid a loud yawn as he stretched. Boy, am I tired. Aren't you, Booker? I sure am. Let's go to your house, Booker said slowly, looking at the puppy out of the corner of his eye. Booker put his arm across J. Michael's shoulders and they started talking about other things. Snowy didn't know what to think. They got nearer the Kindheart's house. Yipping to get the boy's attention, Snowy came closer and closer. It was hard not to look, but if the plan were to work, they had to ignore the puppy. They walked further and further down the block, and the puppy came closer and closer. Soon Snowy was leaping and prancing at their feet, and suddenly in the middle of a sentence, J. Michael swooped down and snatched up the fluffy ball of fur. Snowy yelped happily and licked the boy's face. It worked! It worked! Booker jumped up and down. And you'll still get the money for the computer. J. Michael smiled, and Mr. and Mrs. Fielding still get to keep their dog. That man was smart. He even knows how dogs think. Have you ever seen him before? I don't think so. Maybe he's visiting some friends. Yeah, you're probably right. Probably just visiting some friends. The boys returned the puppy to the backyard and found their frisbee, which has now autographed by Snowy's deep teeth marks. I really am sorry I was careless, J. Michael. Will you forgive me? Sure, J. Michael said as he handed the frisbee to Booker. It's your turn to throw now.